Welcome to Diminished Magic Lesson 3, where I'm about to show you a simple principle that's going to allow you to take any ho-hum chord progression and breathe new life into it, whether it's jazz, or finger picking, or any style of music. So let's jump right in. Let's look at that jazz chord progression. Okay, so here's the chord progression. Now we're going to go through it, and I'm going to show you how to add each of these passing chords. But right now I'm going to give you the principle that I mentioned a few seconds ago that shows you how you can find them yourselves. Okay, here's all you have to know. If you want to find a smooth transitional chord, a nice diminished chord that will move into a major chord or a minor chord, just find the diminished chord that's 1 fret below that chord or 2 frets above it. For example, if we're moving to a C, the note 1 fret below that is B. And so we can use a B diminished chord to move into C. Or we can use a D diminished chord to move to C, because D is 2 frets above that. Let's start breaking down this chord progression. Let's jazz this thing up. Okay, the first 2 chords in this chord progression are C major 7 going to D minor 7. C major 7 up to the D minor 7 chord. So if we want to stick a passing chord in between there, here's the D note. And so we want to find the diminished chord that's a half step or 1 fret below that, which would be this chord right here. There's your C sharp diminished. So here's our D minor 7 again. So the alternative is to find one that's 2 frets above, which is E diminished. Now the notes in C sharp diminished and the notes in the E diminished are exactly the same notes. It's just a new inversion. If you haven't seen the lesson 2 in this series, it explains it pretty well. So we can go from the C major 7 to the D minor 7 like this. Another option would be to take this C and play both of these. Now, moving from the D minor to the G, using the same principle, we have the G7 is being played right down here. And so here's our G note. So the diminished chord, half step or 1 fret below it, would be this F sharp diminished. And the diminished chord, a whole step above or 2 frets, would be this diminished chord. Again, they're the same notes. So if we use that, let's just say the A diminished, we're going to use that after the D minor, so we have that. So that first 2 measures there, we have so that's our passing chords, our diminished 7th passing chords with the first 2 bars. The 3rd and 4th measures are just like the 1st and 2nd one, so we'll just repeat that. Now the next line starts on the F major 7, which is the 4 chord in the key of C. And then it just walks down 3, 2, 1. For each one of those chords, I'm going to transition with the diminished chord 2 frets above each one of them. So I'm starting on the F major 7, and I'm going to go down to the E minor 7. So the note that's 2 frets above that is this note here. It's an F sharp. So I would use this diminished chord to pass to here. So that would sound like this. And now, as I'm going to the D minor, go up 2 frets from the D to find my passing chord to the D minor. The first 3 bars. And now we're on the D minor 7. And we're going to go to the C. And so the diminished chord that's 1 step, whole step, or 2 frets above C is the D diminished chord. So that second line is this. And Now the third line does exactly the same thing for the first three measures there, but it ends on a G7. In the very first line of this chord progression, we have a D minor going to the G7, and that's where we injected that A diminished going to the G7. So we're going to do that at the end of the third line like this. So now we have the whole chord progression with substituted diminished seventh chords. Now once you get used to playing these chords, these passing diminished chords, you know which ones to use. You get to be more creative with different rhythms, picking different chords like this. I created this background track that you've been listening to so you could have something to practice with. It loops, and I also created another one that's a little slower tempo, so if you need to go a little slower, you can practice with that one too. But it's absolutely free, and I'm going to show you how to get that right now. Just go to guitarcreative.com, Tools, Chord Progressions, and when you get there, there's a chance that if you're looking at this shortly after I posted this lesson, that it'll come right up for you. It's this track right here. You can actually change the loop start to be wherever you want. Let's just say you want to just practice this first line. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to click the loop end. Now it'll just loop those first four. But anyway, you can get this just by going to the website. Don't have to sign up for anything. Also know that there's another one that's at a slower tempo. Click that and we'll go load selected track. It also has the diminished chords added in for you so you can see them, but you'll hear it's a slower tempo. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please leave some comments. I'm trying to get better at this. Boink the subscribe button and ding the bell so you'll know when the next lesson's up. Thanks.